Hi, it's Lethea from Farmview Creators. Tonight we're going to work on the Home Sweet Home Porch Leaner insert that goes in any of the 3 bases that are on the Rust Covered Cottage by Christina. I love these kits. I am obsessed with them. I cannot stop working on them. I've worked on one like 3 nights in a row now. So I am going to use this paper that I got from Hobby Lobby. I will leave the name and the pack number in the description. I am using Paint Couture's Espresso mineral acrylic paint and a baby wipe to apply it like it's a stain. Little darker than Van Dyke Brown, and that's what I was going for. Just putting a good layer of that over the pieces with a baby wipe. And then I'm using a makeup sponge to add it to the words. These words are quite fragile, so I didn't want to risk roughing them up too much with the baby wipe. But I'm not really going for even coverage, even though I am going to put 2 layers on those words. And then I got 3 new pinks, okay? Love them. I got Ballet Slipper, which is what I'm using. Later on, I'm going to do some accent with Cherry Blossom. And then the 3rd pink is a sparkly stencil paste that I cannot wait to use. So excited. Going in and getting that 2nd layer on all of those pieces. And then I'm going to put my crackle medium on the sign backer. Now that the espresso is dry, I put a layer of that setting aside for an hour or more until it is completely dry. And I do not like to dry it with heat, like force heat, because sometimes you'll mess up the crackle if you do that. So it's better if it air dries. Went in on those 2 hearts with that same Ballet slipper. These are, that Ballet slipper is a luxe metallic, so it has a really pretty shimmer. And then I was debating on what green to use, but I pulled out my go-to, which is Autumn Sage. It goes really well with the paper that I have chosen for the birdhouse. Going in and getting all of the greenery with a good layer of that, making sure I don't have a lot gumped up in the nooks and crannies, then going back and working on that 2nd layer of the Ballet slipper before the 2nd layer of the Autumn Sage. The Autumn Sage is a mineral acrylic. I do have it in chalk style, but when I was grabbing my paint, I grabbed the mineral acrylic. Then I'm using a blending brush to kind of brush on some Basil mineral acrylic paint around the edges and kind of through that greenery just to give it some more dimension. So I'm going to do that on all of the greenery pieces, including the wreath. And then I am going to work on the decoupage. So I have Paint Couture's Decoupage medium, and I am brushing that on. I should have gone ahead and put it all over the birdhouse instead of leaving that hole in the center because it did bubble up there, but I'm kind of new to decoupage, so, you know, hindsight's 20/20. I'm going to go over this window frame with a stippling brush, and some of the Farmhouse linen. This is a chalk style paint. Now that the decoupage medium has dried, I'm just kind of cleaning up, cutting away with some of my X-Acto, and then filing with a glass file just because it got into those nooks and crannies easier. And then I'll go back in with my little knife and I'm basically shaving off some of those ragged edges along the sides just to make sure it's nice and smooth before I go back in with a pretty heavy layer of the decoupage medium, and I'm making sure that I'm getting it around the edges to seal that paper down, especially because this is going to go outside. And here I am with the Cherry Blossom Luxe Metallic, and I'm just adding some dots with the end of my paintbrush and then a little kind of line, accent line there. And then I'm going to go in on the word sweet and add those trio of dots on each letter. Love how cute that is. I love anything two-tone. And then I'm going to go in with my Debbie's DIY wax and just kind of grunge everything up a little bit, even the hearts and everything. Still waiting on that crackle medium to dry. That was Full Cart Crackle Medium. That is my go-to when I am using just paints. If I'm using paper and I want to crackle on top of that, or, you know, something special that has lots of colors and textures, I'll use my paint Couture, which is 2 steps on top of whatever. You don't put paint in between. And then you put like a wax on it to accent the crackles. But for this, I like my folk art crackle medium. I cut out that bubbly section, plus I wanted to make sure that I had a spot to really glue down the hole, the entry hole on the birdhouse there. And now I'm going in with my Farmhouse linen chalk style paint and brushing a layer over. You don't want to go back and forth with your brush. You want to be pretty quick and use as few strokes as you can, and you can already see the crackle. Now I do force heat. I always go in, even if it looks completely dry naturally, I'm going to go in and force the heat because you'll get even more crackle. And then again, I'm going to distress it with my Debbie's DIY Dark Wax and just pull out some of that crackle before I go in with my Extreme Guard top coat. So I've got Extreme Guard on everything, and now that has dried, and I'm going in with my Dead Flat on top of the Extreme Guard to just kind of really make everything matte. It's still going to let that Ballet slipper sparkle. I don't have to worry about that, but everything else is going to be really nice and matte flat, which is the finish that I prefer. I like the contrast of the matte, super matte, with the sparkle and shimmer of the Luxe Metallics. So now that everything's had time to dry, I'm going to start assembling. When I was pulling off those words, I was being very, very careful to make sure that I did not break them. And now I'm going to go in with my Art Glitter Glue. Love, love, love this glue. I love how it has a very fine tip. You can even put the metal tip that comes with your bottle on for an even thinner tip. And it also gives me a little wiggle room. But when it does set up, it is not going to move, not going to budge. Great. You can use it on glass. You can use it on metal, everything. Here, I forgot my chimney. So I was just going back with my Farmhouse linen and getting that all caught up with the rest of the project. And then I did use some clamps to hold down that middle piece and then the top greenery. Got 2 coats on that chimney. Another thing about Art Glitter Glue is it does not make your fingers sticky, which I appreciate because I am extremely messy, as you can tell from my workspace. I am using a auto paint detailing brush to kind of clean up some of my glue. I don't always do this, but on these pieces, I am very impatient and don't want to have to wait for bubbles of glue to dry. I'm ready for it to get it in my backboard and show it to you all. So I was just kind of cleaning that up, deciding where I want to put my wreath, and then getting that down there. I did put some top coat on that chimney, but there you have it. I love it so much. There's up close of that stippling and the paper, and then the shimmer and the frame, and there it is in the backboard. Love, love, love it. I hope you do too. Be sure to check these out on Christina's site, the Rust Covered Cottage by Christina. Thank you so much for watching.